I'm going to start this vlog with some key quotes from the courtroom speech, starting on page 389. So there's a quote, page 389. Let us not be naive. Men do what they must, even when they feel that they're being driven by God, even when they're fulfilling the will of God. And when I read this quote, I immediately kind of saw a connection between this quote and Bigger's behavior in after he murdered Mary. This is obviously what Max is saying, but Bigger also kind of has the same attitude, and he's justifying his murder of Mary and saying there's like a reason for it. And I kind of saw a connection between what Max said and also what Bigger did. Next quote is page 390. Today, Bigger Thomas and that mob are strangers, yet they hate. They hate because of fear. They fear because they feel that the deepest feelings of their lives are being assaulted and outraged, and they do not know why. They are powerless pawns in a blind play of social forces. So I also saw a connection here between Bigger's behavior, not in the justification of his murders, but I saw there's a connection between his behavior when he was around white people, specifically the Daltons. Obviously, we know that Bigger hates white people a lot, and oftentimes we don't really get an explanation for that. And it was never more apparent, his hate, when he was around the Daltons, specifically Mary Dalton. She was asking him about labor unions and stuff like that, and she was also treating him very kindly, and so was Jan. So when he saw that, he was even more confused, and he started hating them even more. And I think this is because of fear of it's kind of fear of the unknown, because he doesn't know why they're doing this. So they're treating him nicely, but that's not enough. He kind of wants an explanation for why they're treating him, a Negro, so nicely. The third quote is page 394. We planned the murder of Mary Dalton, and today we come to court and say we had nothing to do with it. So I think this is more relatable to the documentary we watched in class about Detroit. So it kind of speaks about the structures that at this time period were in place, and today also were in place. And we see an example today is Detroit. We watched the documentary in class, and kind of the white flight and all the whites moving to the suburbs and the 8 Mile and all that. I think that kind of exemplifies the structure that we have in America, where the minorities, like the blacks, are going to the worst public schools, and the whites are getting a better education in the suburbs in Detroit, for example. And it kind of shows that the structure we have is favoring one group over another and oppressing another group, in this case the blacks. And he says we planned the murder of Mary Dalton, and they planned it with the structure that they've had for hundreds of years. The structure has been to oppress blacks. It was legal to oppress them with slavery and with Jim Crow, and now it's kind of societal norm, even though it might not be in the law. And there's another quote related to that on page 396. But after he murdered, he accepted the crime. He accepted it because it made him free, gave him the possibility of choice of action, the opportunity to act in the field that his actions carried weight. So specifically the accepting. Bigger, he killed Mary accidentally, but because he was a Negro, he just knew that he was in the same room with her, and he's gonna be blamed. So he tries to hide, even before he kills her, he tries to hide that he was in the same room, because if he's in the same room, they're gonna say he's raped her, even though he didn't do either of that, and he ends up killing her to hide it. And I thought there was a very interesting quote on page 404, towards the end of the speech. You cannot kill this man, Your Honor, for we have made it plain that we do not recognize that he lives, so I say, give him life. And that kind of also expands on the fact of the Negro black experience at this time period, that they're human beings, but the state doesn't recognize them as that. That's pretty sad. There's There's one more quote I saw towards the end, the last 10 pages of the book. In the work I'm doing, this is Max. In the work I'm doing, I look at the world in a way that shows no whites and no blacks, no civilized and no savages. And it kind of speaks of the understanding gap between whites and blacks at this time period. Max obviously was trying to help Bigger more than anyone, but still, in this quote, it shows he didn't, and I'll explain why. He says he says that no whites, no blacks, no civilized, no savages. So he's treating everyone as equal, and that's not the right way to go about equality. Because if you treat everyone the same, you're not acknowledging their differences, and that kind of shows that he's trying to help Bigger as a white man, but he still doesn't understand. Even when he's trying to show him the most that he understands, he can't understand. And Bigger, at the end, he's very mad and he's shaking on the bars and he's kind of hopeless. He knows that people will never understand his condition and all these people's condition in America. So that's the end of the vlog. Thank you for listening.